All right, people. I got good news and I got bad news. Um, if you've been following this, uh, thanks for watching. I guess you're trying to learn something, or you're just interested in somebody else's project and the procedure of going through stuff. So you might notice something different if you've been watching these videos chronologically on the 493 Mopar here. You might notice something different because this guy is back in here. It's a beautiful day out today, so I figured I'd get out here and retime this guy with the MSD distributor back in it. So I don't got a lot of days left this season for the cars. But so the good news is I finally pretty much pinned down the timing and vacuum advance stuff I've been working on. Now, by the time you see this video, I'll have posted the other video. I'm running a few days behind in my video posting. So I got one the other day that I haven't put up yet, like I said, but it's got like some procedure on how to do what I need to do in an explanation. But anyway, so you'll wonder why this guy is out, this fire core. And even though I figured it out, I think, for what I can use for timing, and had some pretty good results. I figured that 32 locked out works, and my vacuum advance I can't really use for idle, for pulling more in on idle, because it's just not the way the vacuum signal works on this car, but it is capable of using it on the highway. And my limiter is functional in allowing more or less grand total timing, vacuum advance involved too. And I found out where I kind of want this. So long story short, timing with this is locked out at 32, and this vacuum advance pod I've adjusted so it starts to pull in around 14 inches, and I have a total sweep of 10 vacuum advance degrees in there. So when I'm cruising down the highway at high vacuum, it'll be at like 42 degrees, which I might be able to pull a little more than that. I just haven't really experimented with that because I ran into the other problem that caused me to pull this out. So with all that under the bridge, I can't run full throttle RPM blasts with this distributor for some reason. It's happened to me multiple times. I was under the impression for a while that it was just a timing issue. And I mean, it is, I think, a distributor issue. But what would happen was at about 5,000-ish RPM, the car would basically just cut off. And you would nose over super hard. The transmission would be driving the engine, and there would be no more exhaust sound, and you'd be decelerating super hard. When I'd let off, it would come back. The car would come back on, and essentially I'd be able to drive away. Now, this happened to me a couple times when I was screwing around in second gear, and for a little bit I thought it might be downshifting extra. It would get up that high and want to downshift. But then eventually I tried it in first gear too. I just rolled on it in first to see if I could use the whole RPM band. And I'd reach full throttle. It would come up and hit about 5,000 or 5,200, maybe 55. I can't really tell you because I'm trying not to kill myself. And it would just nose over, sound effect and everything. It would basically, you're going to have to listen to my sound effect again. It would, the exhaust would get louder and louder and louder. It would just, and then it would and nose over, and then I would let off out of it, and then I would just shift it up and it would come back. So I had my dad with me, and we tried it a couple times, and he's like, well, why'd you let off? He kept thinking I was letting off. I was like, no, I'm not letting off. The car is cutting off before I let off. So now, through process of elimination, I've never had a problem with a carb. Got a lawnmower going by here. I've never had a problem with this distributor. I've never had a problem with this coil. I've never had a problem with that transmission. And I've drag raced that transmission and run 1090s on it. It shifts fine through the gears up and down. I've ran 1090s on this. The carb I've used to 7,000 RPM with a different cam version of this engine without a hitch. The only thing that happened when I changed, it's a distributor. So that has got to be it. Now, what I'm thinking is that distributor, and if anybody knows this answer, please let me know, because I'm not sure. This distributor I don't think is playing right with this MSD HVC2. I looked up the Summit version of that, or I actually found it on a forum. The Summit version of this fire core, it only recommends the can style. I think I got one up here. The can style coils, like this guy. This is an old guy, but I mean, it worked when I used it. I don't know why. There's a cobweb in there. Probably a spider making its home in that thing. Ooh, it's rusty down there where that screw is. If anybody knows, can you put it in the comments? Because I don't know. Now, maybe I should have tried that coil before I changed over, but I didn't think of it before I just said, let's switch to this one, retime it. I locked this out to 32 now. Or I locked it out and I'm going to set it at 32. So if this works completely fine, which I have a feeling it should, then I'll know the distributor has an issue, and it might be the coil. Because like I said, when I looked that up, I don't know if I finished what I was talking about. When I looked up the Summit version of this, somebody recommended can coils, different versions of can coils, and that one in there wasn't recommended. So I don't exactly know my way through the world of coils, but the specs on this guy are definitely different than that coil. I don't know, like there's like peak amps and ohms and all that shit, but the numbers are different, and some of them are vastly different. So I don't know, maybe that other distributor's having trouble controlling this at high speed. Because also, before I lose this, when this nose over and no exhaust note would happen, and the engine is clearly your engine braking, because it was slowed down so hard that my stomach was like, you'd pull forward, you're like, oh my God, that makes me feel weird. The tach, I glanced at it real quick, and it was like pegged at 7,000 or 6,900 or whatever my rev limiter chip was at. But I know the engine wasn't revving that fast, because it went from making noise under load to quiet. And I think somehow the distributor is losing control of the spark, and it's sending a signal to the tach saying, full everything is going on or whatever. And then the limiter chip is saying, that's it. Something is happening in there, but it doesn't have congruity to the RPM of the engine. That's what I think is happening. So today, since it's nice out, I'm going to time this up, put some more gas in it, and take it for a ride and see what the frig happens with this thing. So yeah, anyway, that's where I'm at. So good news though. I mean, in the fact that the vacuum advance and my timing worked, I was able to do quite a few good pulls at 32, and the vacuum working with the advance on the highway and not getting any spark knock. So maybe down the road, once I get this figured out, maybe I'll throw this combo back in and see if it works, or see if it has the same problem, and then I'll be able to fiddle a little bit with the finite adjustments on how soon I can pull a little more of advance and the limit of that. But for now, we're going back to the trusty old MSD that was always rock solid in my timing. The other thing I noticed too, which might have a bearing on this, is when I would time with the fire core, at idle I could shoot the number, right? And it would say 32, you could see it. I'd bring it up in RPM just a little bit, or bring it up to see what happened, and I would lose the number. If you've ever timed cars, you know what happens when that your number just goes away. But I know I wasn't way off, because on this fluid damper, there's like a embossed or like a etched in emblem. It's like a couple flags or some shit. And that wouldn't move. So if when your timing moves, stuff will change with the light, and that wouldn't move. It stayed right where it was. So I know I'm not wavering in timing very much, just enough something's just a hair off. So maybe that's a signal of something going on. I don't know. But I don't recall having that problem with the MSD. You could rev it up and always just read the number. And we're going to test that in a little bit here when I get this thing going. Anyway, 10-minute video. I don't want to keep it any longer than that. But that's where I am. And I'm kind of disappointed that I couldn't use the vacuum advance at idle, but I explained this in the other video of how the way this bigger cams create vacuum in a performance engine is almost more like ported vacuum, even though I'm using manifold vacuum. As when you crack the throttle, you know, as in like cruising, it gains vacuum, which you don't really want. So anyway, because you know you'll be gaining a little bit of load trying to accelerate, and you're giving yourself more timing, which that's the opposite effect of what you want. Anyway, I'll cut this end here and try to upload both these videos today, or maybe I'll save this one and stretch it out, make you guys wait. Take it easy later. Well, guys, I'm going to quote Borat again with a great success, because there's definitely something with the fire core maybe playing badly with that MSD, because this MSD Pro Billet locked out at 32. I was able to run this all the way up past 6,000 RPM with no kill off, whatever you want to call that. No kill switch engaged. When I'd hit 5,500, it would just shut off on me. Ran all the way up, ran good, clean. So I'm gonna have to call fire core and ask some questions about that. So I'll just do a quick look at the car outside, because I don't see it much. There's still beautiful interior in this car. 52,000 miles. I've told people this before. Now the back seat you can't actually use, obviously, because of the roll cage, but I had to cut the frame so I could bend the seat to fit in through the roll cage, the bottom half anyway. There's a mascot, Henry. Little Black Sabbath reference. If you guys know who Henry is with Black Sabbath, put it in the comment. Anyway, actually it's a little takeoff of John Milner too, or Harrison Ford's character in American Graffiti, actually, as well. But yeah, so I'm in a good mood now. Everything seemed to work pretty good. Still getting a little blow-by drip out that back vent on this side when you really give it the coal. Obviously the blow-by there's not a system to pull the blow-by into the carburetor. So I may enlarge the PCV a little bit. That's yet to be determined on that. Anyway, that seemed to be a pretty fun, good deal right there. So this is a 251, I think, at 50 on the intake, and 257 at 50 on the intake. And it likes to idle at 32 degrees and run the whole thing, power at 32 degrees. I use a 10-degree start retard on the MSD box. And that cam seems to work pretty good. It's reminiscent of, I think the advertised duration is around 484. So it's kind of similar manners to the old Mopar Performance 484 purple shaft, with probably a little bit more duration, higher towards the nose, and more lift. So it feeds these max wedge port heads a little better. Yeah, it's a good setup. It pulls pretty hard. I've yet to really mash it to the floor from a dead stop. I did do it earlier, weeks ago, and it had a couple good launches. I kept it below 5,500 where it was doing the breakdown, and I did get a little wheel hop later in the launch pull, but I've never run treaded DOT tires on this. As you can see, those Nitos. Previously at the drag strip and stuff, I'd run slicks, so cops driving by. They don't seem to be looking for me though. That's always good. Anyway, I'll add this to the back of my last video as a little resolution. And maybe I can take a break from working on this for a while, because I'm getting burnt out, guys. It's a lot of work doing this. A lot of mental burnout doing this stuff. But now I know it's better, so I can relax. I still would like to run the fire core with the vacuum advance, at least on the highway, to get a little more efficiency. Maybe I'll give them a call and ask what the deal is with that distributor and coil. Later. Hey people, quick addendum to this video. So I just talked to the owner of Firecore. He's a really nice guy. He was actually driving his race car at the time. And I asked him what the problem was with the Firecore shutting down. And he told me my polarity is wrong. So that I just need to reverse these wires basically for the Firecore, and it should be fine. He said if you have the polarity wrong, it'll only take it to about 4,500, and that's pretty much exactly what is happening to me with the Firecore. So that's pretty interesting. I asked him why, and he said he didn't know. It was magic. So but it runs great with this setup, and he didn't seem to have any type of issue with the coil. So because I asked him if there's a recommended coil to use with it, and he just didn't even really pay attention to that. He just said the polarity's wrong. So maybe what I'll do is, I don't know, make some quick detachable whip here. So if I want to go back and forth between the two, I can just quickly use either. I like being able to use either part whenever, with not an issue, you know what I mean? Like, I'm stuttering like an idiot here, but I like to have plug and play stuff. So if something breaks, I can take the other part, put it on, and if I make some type of plug where I can quickly shift the polarity, that would be interesting. I'll have to think up how to do it. As I'm sure that's obviously you guys are going, well, just do this, dummy. But I'm gonna have to look at it and yeah, figure it out. Interesting. I asked him why it worked with this one, and he said he didn't know either. So there's obviously some weird science going on here that I don't get. But if it's just a simply, flipping the wire issue, okay, we'll try it. See how it rolls. Later.